Hello and welcome to the LCTV News. I'm Mukala Kabongo. In this edition of the LCTV News, LCTV receives awards, MBTA public meeting, Trails and Sales Cemetery tour, sit down with Midge Costin, and more. LCTV is proud to announce that they will be the recipients of 4 Alliance for Community Media Northeast Regional Northeaster Video Festival. With these wins, LCTV has now accumulated 9 total awards in 2019. LCTV took home 3rd place in the Arts and Theaters category for their production of The Boston Abolitionists last fall. Lynn Uncovered Brian Pistols won 1st place in the documentary category, and the 3rd award was in the sports program category, where LCTV took 1st place for video collaboration produced with Private Jewels Fitness on training for Olympic boxing. On Thursday, the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association announced their partnership with the Aganis family to honor Harry Aganis by renaming the Massachusetts High School Football Championship Trophy to the Aganis Trophy. The trophy will be awarded at each of the 8 MIAA championship games at Gillette Stadium in December. Harry Aganis, a Lynn native, was a star athlete in both football and baseball at Lynn Classical. After graduating from Lynn Classical, Aganis would go to Boston University, where he played football, basketball, and baseball for the Terriers. Aganis would play 2 seasons for the Boston Red Sox before passing away in 1955 from a pulmonary embolism, which is a blockage in one of the pulmonary arteries in the lungs. In a statement, Greg Aganis, great-nephew of Harry Aganis, says, "This honor continues his great legacy, along with the naming of the Aganis Arena at Boston University and the Aganis Foundation, which has given out over $2 million in scholarship since its inception in 1955. City of Lynn employees will see a raise in their salary thanks to the city's $3.94 million in health insurance savings for this year. The savings will also be going towards hiring new police officers, as well as repairing sidewalks and the school department. The raise comes from negotiation through a collective bargaining that was reached over the summer between the city and the dozens of unions. The city will look to hire 10 new police officers, which will cost approximately $720,000. $300,000 will go towards repairing sidewalks, $75,000 towards legal expenses, and $100,000 will go towards the Essex North Shore Agriculture and Technical School tuition as part of the school department budget. Teachers in the Lynn Public Schools will be receiving a 2% raise as part of the terms for their new agreement. The agreement between the Lynn Teachers Union and the school committee is a 2-year contract that includes raises, higher pay for substitutes, as well as more prep time for elementary teachers. After 11 months of negotiations, the contract was ratified and approved by the school committee. The deal will run until August 31st, 2021. Teachers will receive their 2% raise this school year and next year. The Lynn Community Association held its 2nd Candidates Forum this past Wednesday at the Masjid As-Salam Mosque on Linfield Street. The forum welcomed candidates running for councilor at large. To watch the full forum, visit the LCTV website and click on the video on demand. The City of Lynn announced today that it is now offering Pay by Phone, the leading global provider of mobile parking. Residents now have an easier way to pay for parking with the Pay by Phone app. To pay for parking through the app, users will simply enter the location code of their desired space, followed by their planned parking duration, and then pay. Users can extend their duration by simply adding more money to their parking through the app. In a statement, Mayor McGee states that the city is constantly looking for new ways to simplify and enhance experiences for residents and visitors. Now for the police update. Early Monday morning, a 43-year-old Lynn man was shot on his leg in his apartment on Harwood Avenue. According to Lieutenant Michael Kimmick, the shooting occurred after midnight on the 2nd floor of the apartment. The victim, who has yet to be named, was taken to Mass General Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The shooting occurred inside the apartment, but numerous shell casings were recovered by Lynn Police outside the residence. Lynn Police were told by other residents who were home at the time of the shooting that they did not witness the shooting. At this time, no arrests have been made, and the shooting remains under investigation. Last Friday, a Lynn man was arrested for possessions of heroin and a knife after fleeing the after fleeing the scene of a car crash. The hit and run occurred near Boston Street shortly after midnight. Pablo Colon was found and identified as the suspect by Lynn Police with the help of witnesses. Lynn Police found 46.8 grams of heroin on Colon along with a knife. Colon is being charged with disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, operating under the influence of drugs, carrying a dangerous weapon, negligent operation of a motor vehicle, leaving the scene of property damage, leaving the scene of personal injury, motor vehicle and felony, larceny, trafficking more than 36 grams of Class A drug, and operating a motor vehicle with a revoked license as an habitual traffic offender after midnight. On Monday, William Cash was sentenced to 42 years in state prison after being found guilty last month of second-degree murder, armed assault with intent to murder, human trafficking, and firearm charges. On April 16, 2017, Cash shot and killed Leonard Clement and injured Prince Bellin after an encounter with Cash in downtown Lynn. Cash will not be eligible for parole until he is 89 years old. Beginning on Monday, October 7th, the Lynn Police Department will be implementing a new TASER program for their officers. This program is to provide officers with additional and less lethal force options to subdue combative individuals. 24 new tasers were purchased by the department. Each taser comes with a holster for officers. Lynn Police Department certified 2 officers as taser instructors. They were trained on how to properly use the taser device. According to a research by the Police Executive Research Forum, tasers reduce officers' injuries by 70% as well as suspects' injuries by 40%. The program reinforces Lynn Police Department's value on officer safety as well as public safety. Over the weekend, LCTV sent a crew to St. Stephen's Episcopal Church for their Walking History Tour.
So he did his land and all that stuff, and it's over where the Monument District is today. And another thing that I never knew, but the church that's over there, Church of the Holy Name in Swampscott, his daughter paid for the stained glass windows in that church. I'm going to talk about the stained glass windows here in a minute. It's a granite and brick church. The granite came from over where his land was. If you ever take the walk in the Olmsted District in Swampscott as part of Trails and Sales, they talk about where all the granite was over there. There's a stone, and you can't see it, today. At the entrance of the church here, from King's Lynn, England. That's what Lynn's name for King's Lynn, England. And it bears the inscription, St. Margaret's Church, King's Lynn, England, sent this fragment from its venerable walls to St. Stephen's Church, Lynn, Massachusetts, June 28, 1880. Enoch never saw the church finished. His funeral was the first one from the unfinished church. His son died in the Civil War and in the Battle of Gettysburg, and they brought the body back here. And if you ever go in there, and I suggest if you've never seen the stained glass windows, next year when they do it, they did it last Saturday, make it a point to go in. It's something to see.
The Mass Humanities, along with the Lynn Cultural Council, held a reading of the unfinished agenda of Frederick Douglas in the 21st Century at the Lynn Public Library, and LCTV was on the scene.
In 2009, President Barack Obama published an article using the phrase, and Obama credited the words to King. But as I learned in the shadow of an empty steel plant more than 2 decades ago, while you can't necessarily bend history to your will, you can do your part to see that in the words of Dr. King, it bends towards justice. But by 2013, at his speech on the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, on the steps in front of the Lincoln Memorial where Dr. King stood, a wiser Obama notes, the moral universe may bend towards justice, but it doesn't bend on its own.
It was 400 years ago last month that Africans were taken against their will and brought to Virginia. He understood Frederick understood and lectured on it and actually broke with William Lloyd Garrison, one of my favorite abolitionists, because he understood that it wasn't enough to be free. You had to debunk the myth of white supremacy, which had already been in place from 1619, right? From when he was born. So he understood that, and I actually got faked out by our history. I actually thought that, you know, the settlers wanted religious freedom. But I was reminded when I was reading the Times, the 1619 thing that came out, I don't know if you saw it, New York Times, an all-black staff wrote this, and he talked about Britain was getting ready to do away with slavery, and they did not want to give up that economy. See, what people often don't talk about was the economics of slavery. Come on, let's face it.
On Tuesday, October 1st, the MBTA held a special public meeting on layover space for bus routes. Members of the community packed the city council chambers to voice their opinion. Here's more from the meeting.
So just as context, Lynn to us is to the MBTA is a very important place. And while we talk about the Better Bus Project and what's going on, I do want to say that Lynn is constantly a lot of the MBTA's planning and investments for the future of transit. So as an example of that, of things you might be hearing going on at the same time, just so you understand the context, is Lynn is what's considered a priority place for us. So we recently finished our strategic planning vision up to 2040, and in it we identified a number of what we call priority places. Lynn is one of those, and there's actively a Lynn Transit Action Plan going on right now with many of the same people you see around the room, including Senator Crichton, Representative Cahill, to try to come up with other ways to improve transit to Lynn. Whether, I know people have talked about the Blue Line extension, ferry, better bus, but a number of options that group is actively going on. Two, there's also been a lot of efforts recently about bus stop consolidation. And Eric Berkman, who is right there raising a hand, you may have seen in the past, has been working tirelessly with the City of Lynn and the Traffic Commission to essentially consolidate bus stops. And up to now, I believe up to at least 31 parking spaces have been restored to the City of Lynn as we try to consolidate bus stops, as often bus stops are as close as 100 feet, which isn't effectual for anyone. And so that's been going on, and that's, I think, a very positive story as well.
One question I have for you, because while we understand the need for a strong public transportation system, my fiance takes public transit to get into Boston, what I'm concerned is idling in a residential area. So I have gone out at 5:30 in the morning from my house in my PJs to ask the bus operators to turn off their buses when they were idling in front of my house. The bedrooms for my tenants are in the front of the house, and sometimes they're there as late as 11 o'clock at night, at which point I did go out and ask the bus drivers to please turn their engines off. One option that I don't know why it wasn't considered, and maybe you've looked at it, is that right up the street we have the Swampscott commuter rail, which is not a residential area. It is an MBTA-owned property. I didn't know, is there a possibility for the bus to idle at a train station versus outside of residential houses?
To To watch the full interview, visit lyntv.org. On this week's Community Connector, we visit Pine Grove Cemetery for the Trails and Sales Cemetery Tour. Here is this week's Community Connector.
Today we're going to do the cemetery tour from the 1850s through to the 1900s, and we're going to explore the Lynn community residents who have made a difference in the city, who have contributed to the city, and have contributed to the world wars such as Civil War, World War I and II, and the Spanish-American War, and also explore the Firemen's Memorial. I took a history class, U.S. history, sort of just for the fun of it, and met Julia and did community service on Pine Grove Cemetery and got involved in the committee that was trying to get Pine Grove on the National Historic Register, which we did in 2012, I believe, 2011, 2012. Yeah. And so the cemetery became a focal point of our historical research, and from there it kind of took off into the two tours, as Julia said.
Yeah, just to go to one end to the other, and we're not even covering like the new sections off in this direction. And so that's the thing, is like when we put a tour together, it probably takes us a whole year to put that tour together, like Lynn and America's Wars. And it's because like we have to do all the research, going to the library, finding obituaries, looking at the site that they're buried. Is there something interesting about that as well that we want to cover?
We have so many notable people who have contributed to this eastern seaboard, not just Lynn, but Swampscott, Linfield, Saugus, Marblehead, Danvers, and many of them are buried right here.
There's so many cool graves like this, and we're going to see some interesting ones today. Our notables on the tour today is Elihu Thompson, who's right behind us, was the founder of the General Electric Company. Right. And so Patty's going to cover him. But then also later on, we'll also be visiting Lydia Pinkham. You know, those are two notables on our tour today.
Now for the sports update. Last night at Manning Field, Kip Academy defeated Minutemen 36-10 in a Commonwealth Conference matchup. The Panthers' offense was clicking in the first half. Quarterback Piero Canals had a big game, throwing for 1 touchdown and adding 2 rushing touchdowns. Piero rushed for 62 yards on 3 carries. Running back Daniel Olawosue added 82 yards on 7 carries. Kip Academy put up 36 points in the first half. The Panthers' defense only allowed 8 points, but the game was well out of hand. The Panthers will look to keep the momentum going next Thursday when they take on Mystic Valley in another Commonwealth Conference matchup. Last Friday at Captain John Bertram Field in Salem, the Lynn English Bulldogs had an offensive explosion as they put up 56 points in a rout of Salem. The Bulldogs came out the gates hitting on all cylinders as they put up 26 points in the first quarter. Quarterback Jesse Maggs, who got the start in place of injured quarterback Matthias Fowler, threw for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bulldogs took the opening drive and struck quick, going 3 plays, which resulted in a 59-yard touchdown pass from Maggs to Purder. Taj Purder caught 3 passes for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. Purder also added a 57-yard punt return for a touchdown. In the second quarter, the Bulldogs would score on 3 of their 4 possessions, beginning with a 60-yard touchdown run by running back Sam O'Fury. O'Fury rushed for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game. English will finally have their home opener tonight at 7:30 p.m. when they take on Gloucester at Manning Field. Lynn Tech Tigers continued their strong play offensively and defensively, pitching another shutout as they defeated Mystic Valley 38-0 last Friday at Manning Field. Tech got 228 yards from their backfield. Haider Badwai rushed for 128 yards on 6 carries, and Gabriel Perez added 100 yards on 3 carries. Each running back had 3 touchdowns. The Tigers' defense did not allow Mystic Valley to get anything going throughout the game. The Tigers shut out Mystic Valley's running attack. This week, the Tigers have a bye and get back on the field the next week as they take on Chelsea in a Commonwealth Conference matchup. The St. Mary's Spartans are now 2-1 on the season after losing to Cardinal Spellman 35-14. The Cardinals scored on their first 2 possessions to take a 14-0 lead and never looked back. St. Mary's finally got on the scoreboard after quarterback David O'Leary's 2-yard touchdown run. Running back Ali Berry would break off for a 62-yard touchdown run, but that wasn't enough to counter the Cardinals' offensive attack. The Spartans will look to bounce back Saturday as they take on Fenway. Lynn Classical dropped their second Northeastern Conference matchup game last Friday as they fell to Revere 43-26 at Harry Della Russo Stadium. Revere running back Joe Lanos rushed for 200 yards on 23 carries and added 2 touchdowns. Revere jumped out to a 13-0 lead, and multiple drops by Classical receivers and turnovers led to the Rams being down 20-0 in the first quarter. The Rams would finally get on the board when quarterback Daniel Gizono connected with Jeffrey Hill on a 9-yard touchdown pass. Classical will cut the lead to 6 after running back Calvin Soule's 5-yard touchdown run, which made the score 20-14. Revere would respond back with a 57-yard touchdown run by Lanos, and a 44-yard field goal would increase the lead to 29-14. The Rams will get no closer than 10 points. Classical, now 1-2 on the season, look to bounce back in the win column as they take on Salem today at Manning Field. On Thursday Night Football, the Seattle Seahawks defeated the Los Angeles Rams 30-29 after Rams kicker Greg Zuerlein missed a potential game-winning field goal. Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson played a near-perfect game, throwing for 268 yards, completing 17 of 23 passes, and added 4 touchdowns. Running back Chris Carson rushed for 127 yards on 27 carries. The Seahawks are now 4-1 on the season, and the Rams have fallen to 3-2 on the season. The Rams now have 10 days off before their matchup with the 49ers on October 13th. As for the Seahawks, they will travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns. On the Lynn Lowdown, we sat down with Director Midge Costin. Here is this week's Lowdown. Welcome to the Lynn Lowdown. Today we have a very, very special guest, Lynn English alum, just like me, 2 Lynn English alums here, coming all the way from Southern California, came home to premiere a documentary yesterday, September 15th. September 15th was yesterday, correct?
Yes, yes.
Making Waves, the Art of Cinematic Sound. Midge Costin, how are you today?
Thank you. Nice to be here with you.
Yeah, you back home, premiering the documentary.
I know. It feels really great.
Yeah.
I had my 45th high school reunion from English. It was really cool to see everybody. I could recognize all the women, the men. Maybe it's they lost their hair. I don't know. We used to have long hair in the 70s, right? They all had long hair. And I was just so happy. It was really emotional to come back and to show in my hometown the Art of Cinematic Sound, Making Waves, the Art of Cinematic Sound. And I've been traveling all over the world with this film.
Yeah, you premiered it. You had it presented at Tribeca as well, Tribeca Film Festival.
So our world premiere was Tribeca, and oh my God, it was just unbelievable. It was so great. You know, it sold out. People love it. And then we went on to Cannes, which is like, are you kidding me? Not only is it a documentary, but then it's about sound, and those of us who work in sound feel like, you know, we're almost like the bottom of the totem pole. Like no one really thinks about sound for movies. They think you turn on the camera and sound comes. And this was my opportunity to kind of just like say, you know, these are artists. This is what we do with sound.
Sound actually makes the movies because, you know, when there's some dramatic moments or, you know, the emotional parts of movies, it has to do a lot with sounds, because if the sound is right, the audience can feel the emotion in the movie or the suspense in the movie due to the sound that's happening during the movie.
Absolutely, and that's what. But you know, it's funny. A lot of people say it, but then it seems like, you know, we don't get the budget. We don't get the, you know, when you read about films or people review films, they never talk about it. But I think there's more. See, you're of a generation that there's more awareness about sound, and I think it's because you grow up doing, you know, making, you know, pictures and, you know, it's phones or whatever, you know what I mean, earlier. So you're thinking about, but then you don't know about sound so much, and it lowers the production value if you don't have good sound. So you know that that's the thing that you might need. Yeah.
This art of cinematic sound, what is it overall? What is, when people watch it, what do you want them to get out of it?
What I really want them to understand is that a couple things for sure. A lot of people think you turn on the camera and the sound is there, but what we get when you're on the set is the performances, because that's the really important part. Like, people perform, even if they're not saying words, how they breathe, and, you know, just like you kind of know how they feel when you hear their breath and you know, short whatever, or like, you know, longer, or they're you know, more comfortable, and so you can just like, so you're really quiet. Even the background people, they don't make any noise, even if they're pretending to talk, you know. So then we have to fill everything in. We do the ambience, and that has to be stereo, so it's like what we hear in the world with our 2 ears. So we do stereo, and then we bring it back into the room and surrounds, and so it's like we do ambience, we do effects, we do Foley, which is like the footsteps and the incidental sounds, and then the music, you know, which is really powerful, the powerful part of the soundtrack. But it's mostly what I really love about, and then I've gone on to teach this. So I did this in film for a long time in Hollywood, the big action adventure movies like Armageddon and The Rock, and Crimson Tide, those kind of movies. So I learned so much about how I'm being affected by sound, and I wanted, well, one thing is I wanted people to understand, and I feel like what I do is I teach people to listen and to appreciate their hearing and what's going on in terms of sound, so that they really get affected, not just by music emotionally, but just what's the room tone. Or,
Now, when you guys are in post-production doing, how long does it usually take for you all to put it all together? Because I can imagine it is such a long process. Is it fair to say that it's tedious?
It can be, it can be really tedious, and then it can be really fun, actually. But what happens is the time period, the deadlines are so short that it's like you're always kind of racing against a deadline. And it used to be when we were doing film that we'd have months to work on a film. Now it's just weeks, and with Pro Tools and, you know, working digitally, you can do so much yourself, you know. So it's now it could just be a matter of weeks, but it might take for like a feature, depending on how big and how early they start. It might not be. It might be a month. Sometimes you're working on a show for a couple of months, a few months actually. So
don't we all love deadlines? Now, with this premiere, that I read here that this was in collaboration with Raw Arts and Lynn English High TV Production. Let's talk about, you know, having your alma mater contribute to this, and then Raw Arts, which does a lot of sound work now with the youths, and how is it just collaborating with those two?
Well, what happened is my father was the one, because my father years ago was mayor of the city, and then Thomas B. Costin Jr. That's right. Very proud of him. He was. I'm so lucky. I'm really lucky. My parents are amazing, and so you know, he was mayor of the city. It says that on my birth certificate. Father's occupation, mayor, and then he was postmaster for I forget how many, 40 or something years, and so he is always working for Lynn. So he came up with the bright idea to show it here. I thought great, and then I thought, and he also told me about Raw Arts, and I went there and taught a class like 2 years ago, which was so fun. But I've been so busy with this film, and I also teach at the University of Southern California. So it's like having 2 full-time jobs. But and I thought, oh, I'd love to do something, you know. And so what it is that it was all the proceeds went to, they split between Raw Arts and LEHS television production program. I figured, I know you can always use equipment, right?
Yeah,
You know?
all the time, yes, especially the schools, they could use it as well.
Yeah.
Any donations, good donations, right?
And you always need everything, things. So I think we made like a couple $1,000s. I just heard from Jamie Marsh at Lynn Auditorium, which was great because he donates, I think he donates his time in the place, and that was really cool. And so we showed a couple of films from Raw Arts, which they're amazing. And I was saying that
they do great. They do great work.
Like I'm on the admissions committee at USC, and those would be some of the good films that would get somebody into the school. So I was saying those were really good. And then we also saw the LEHS. They were doing things on immigration, and they had a really powerful, documentary that they showed. Yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff happening in the city. Now, for you, you're going to Korea next.
Yes, I'm going to Korea on Thursday.
You're going to Korea on Thursday, a couple days to premiere this at another festival. So
I'm so excited. I've never been to Korea, and I get to bring the movie and show it, and then do a master class on. They want me to do one on sound for independent films and documentaries, which to me is no different than when I do it on a big feature film. Just do the best that you can.
Hey, I mean, get the world to see it. Maybe more people will come in. That's kind of like good recruiting for USC as well too. Have you go out there, show that film. And then you said you've also been to places like New Zealand.
I went to New Zealand this summer. Oh my God, that was great. That was so fun. And I got to meet all the guys who do Peter Jackson's films, and then I went to Munich, so I was in Germany, and then we went to, we were in France at Cannes, and that was like amazing.
Yes.
And then the film won the Audience Award at Bogota, Colombia. I'm very proud of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
And it went to Israel, it went to Cyprus, it's going to Norway. I mean, it's going all over. It's amazing.
If they want to watch this film, where can they watch it?
Okay, now, it's going to come around, I think, it might be more like the Cabot or the Warwick or some kind of art house film. What's happening is we're going to open in October 25th in LA and New York. Okay. And then, but early in the year, I would say next year, maybe by February, we'll probably be streaming. So we'll be on some, so if they look up the title, Making Waves, The Art of Cinematic Sound, and hopefully, they'll be able to Google it and find out.
So they'll soon they'll see.
Within the year.
Those that were lucky to show up yesterday, Sunday, September 15th, got to see the masterpiece put together.
That's right.
All right.
It's great.
Look at that.
Thank you.
10 minutes is up.
Fun.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Bulldogs stick together.
Yeah.
Safe travels back to California and to Korea. And hopefully when you come back, we can do this again.
Oh my God, I'd love to.
All right. Great. Awesome.
All right.
You guys been watching the Lynn Lowdown. Midge Costin. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. And now for some upcoming local events. Today from 3 p.m. until 9 p.m., the Lynn Tech Alumni Annual Golf Tournament will take place at Gannon Golf Course. Proceeds from the tournament will help support the students of Lynn Tech. This evening from 5:30 p.m. until 8 p.m., the opening receptions for Community Gallery Dark Art hosted by Galleries at Lynn Arts and Fine Arts of the Lydia Pickham at Lynn Arts. Meet and greets will go on from 5:30 p.m. until 6 p.m. and the opening reception will go on from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. On Saturday, October 5th, the 3rd annual Callahan Harvest Festival will go on from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. at Callahan School. Local vendors, kids workshop, touch a truck with Lynn Fire, as well as plenty other activities will be on display. The Ella Fund will be hosting an evening of song to benefit the LE Fund at St. George Church this Saturday from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. The LE Fund provides support to those who are battling breast cancer. The organization was funded after the passing of Eleanor Popkin, who lost her battle with breast cancer in 1987. On Monday, October 7th, LCTV will be hosting its first of 3 candidate forums. We welcome candidates running for school committee on Monday, followed by candidates running for ward councilor on Wednesday, October 9th, and October 10th, we will have candidates running for councilor at large. Each forum will be broadcasted live and streamed online. The forums will begin at 7 p.m. and go on until 9 p.m. Beginning on Thursday, October 10th from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m., the City of Lynn will be hosting a free community flu clinic for all Lynn residents. This will be the first of 2 free community flu clinics this month. The first will be at Breed Middle School, followed by Thurgood Marshall Middle School on October 17th. LCTV's next Paramount film series will take place on Monday, October 21st. The movie choice for October is The Exorcist. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. Movie begins at 7 p.m. Free popcorn and beverages will be available. Thank you for watching the LCTV News. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and visit us at lyntv.org to watch any show anytime on your computer, tablet, or phone. I'm Mukala Kabongo. Have a great day.